Honestly, I think one of the most motivating factors is a breakup in terms of getting you to go through those plans you've been put delaying, getting through to motivate you to do better, to put forth your best successful self.
Yeah.
I think the breakups are a period, even though it sucks, even though it hurts, even though it's something that's not fun to deal with, I feel like that leads you to a point in time in your life where you really make something happen. All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a very spicy, kind of very vulnerable topic. It is the topic of tango exes. And coming from someone who actually has a pretty decent amount of tango exes, I will say that the situation definitely varies a lot. But I will say that tango brings a lot of people that kind of date within the same cesspool of people. And so you get a lot of interesting experiences dealing with former boyfriends, girlfriends, now dating other people in the tango scene. And that can kind of be really interesting, really weird, really controversial, really combative at some points. So yeah, we're going to talk about tango exes in this video. And for me, for every tango ex that I've had, there is always a long period of I can't even say anything to you in the Malanga. Like if I see you in a Malanga, it's weird, it's awkward. I'm on that side, you're on that side. I'm not making eye contact with you. We're not saying anything. It's gonna be weird. That lasts for me about 6 months. And then about 6 months, I think one of the parties either goes, hey, and then I respond, hey back. And then that's like a huge step up where we say one word, hi, that's it. And then we kind of say, how are you doing? That's the next evolution. Doing good. Cool. But I know that it's very different for a lot of people. And so, yeah, we're going to try to share our experiences and see what kind of things we kind of share in this tango world of ours, because it is a dance that we obviously do connect with other people. We do share intimate situations with many different people. And so the Tango X thing happens quite a lot and more than you think. And so, I mean, I have more Tango X's than you, but what is your...
I've never really had a problem with Tango X's, really. I would say like the initial breakups hurt quite a bit, but it's just one of those things where like I'd see him, I was like, sure, whatever. I didn't dance with them for a while, I'll say that. But then also sometimes I would look at them and kind of go, oh, that's your new boyfriend, and it's
That always hurts.
yeah. Well, it's even worse when I don't respect their dance.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious because
Does that matters?
well, because especially when like they're shopping for like tango boyfriends.
Oh.
You know,
Well, does it matter if they're they're better or worse than you?
I think it matters to me because then it's like if they're worse than me, well, if I think they're worse than me,
Yeah.
it's
You're
almost
like, what is this
well,
guy?
it's like you traded down, like really, like or in my head I think like, wow, she thinks this guy's better than me, and then I'm like, oh, like this is terrible. So it's just there's that,
I think as us guys, and we can only speak from obviously from a guy perspective. I think men, we have it worse in heartbreak when breakups happen. I feel like it hurts us more because I feel like women, they always have another option. You ever see that? They always seem to have, at least in my experience, they always seem to have like they never leave one option with nothing. They always leave one option and then they have something in the backup plan.
I would actually say from
Like they never quit unless they have something that they're moving on to.
well, that's the thing. Like from my experience, it's not like from my experience, not just necessarily just tango exes, but I always feel like they're already 1 foot into the other relationship before they pull the trigger.
They're testing the water.
No, it's like they're single for like less than an hour,
Right.
And that's what I mean. It's like they say, hey, for me that's not with my tango exes, but I've been cheated on before, and it was just kind of like,
Me too.
that's kind of how it happened. It was like, oh hey, I found someone better. Bye. I'm like, what the hell? Like that came out from left field. You didn't like no loyalty, no nothing. Like I've done all this for you. So it's rough. For Tango, I think it's also kind of rough, especially if you made plans together.
Oh, that sucks.
Like if you want to compete together,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
and then you get traded out. And then, I think because during the time I was so concentrated on competing, and I was just thinking, oh, great, so, and this is how pathetic it was. It was almost like, wait, so are we still competing or not?
Are you serious? You
Yeah.
gotta ask?
No, because in my mind, no, because in my mind I was like, okay, well, it might not be anything romantic, but then it's like, now like that puts me behind on the timetables and training, and like I was like, so that came to mind. It made me think about that. I'm like, okay, well, do I want to go back, or do I want to suck it up and maybe just like work with someone that I've worked with, because we have like maybe 3 months left.
I don't know why I'm laughing, because to be fair, I actually did that with Rochelle, so I don't know why I'm laughing here, because we still competed after we broke up.
Yeah.
But then Rochelle is the only ex that I still, to this day, are close friends with.
Yeah.
Like, none of my exes I'm really friends with.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still friends with my exes, but they moved on. I'm like, I'm happy for them. I'm like, hey, I'm happy for you. But yeah, I guess during the time I was totally in the competition, and that's what I thought. I was like, are we still competing, or and then she looked at me like, well, is it obvious that we're not? And I'm like, no, it's not obvious. So yeah, it was. I guess it's because like I was willing to suck it up because for my ambitions in tango.
Do you think you could still dance the same?
Well, probably yes, because when I was competing back then, I didn't have all the tools that I do now.
Yeah, of course.
To really make it, to really, where that would really impact things. Because now that I understand about things like emotional content, to me back then it was just movement and musicality.
Yeah.
And my musicality was so raw. There's the beat, the double time, and that's it, and the melody. That's all I had.
Yeah.
There was nothing. There was no like, oh,
That's a lot.
What I mean is like, I meant like just rudimentary. It wasn't like there was no pause. There was no phrasing. There's none of that stuff. It was just like there's the beat, da, 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 that was it. And then you do the double time, and there's the melody. Like okay, we slow down a little bit, whatever. Do some ochos, but it wasn't like I had a lot to offer. Like I thought I had a lot to, because back then I thought I had a lot to offer, and I thought it was good, I had a lot of figures, and that's what I mean. I was just spamming figures and hoping like something would fit. So could I dance the same with these exes? Yes, because I didn't have the things that were really necessary to make me stand out as a competitor.
I think in both of our cases, it's interesting. Usually when you see tango breakup, there's a good chance that one person's going to stay in tango and the other person's not. Mm-hmm. Right? But I think it's tough to say in my scenario, in my history. I think it's like 50-50.
Well, I'm 50-50 too.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, actually, no, it's almost 100, because like they stayed in tango for a short bit, and then they decide that like life moved on, like they don't need tango, and now they're happily married, happy for them. And the other one, like they left tango before we broke up, and then it was like, it's almost like there was almost nothing left for us to do together anymore, because I was like, I still want to do tango, and that just takes us apart more. And then she found other things to do, and it was almost like, hey, let's just like, we're halfway in the coffin, might as well just put the last nail in. And it was mutual, it was fine.
I'm pretty impressed by just from our community where we have a lot of exes, and they still really cordial.
Yeah.
And the milongas and the social events, and it's almost to the point where you forget, like, oh yeah, those two used to date.
Yeah.
It's like I forgot.
Yeah. And some of it was really, there were some really fiery breakups too the whole community was like, ooh, it's a big fissure in the middle.
Yeah, you got to take your side. Kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
That's the unfortunate ones.
yeah. Especially when it's like someone that you like dancing with. You're like, oh, like bros or,
Oh man,
So yeah, that was a tough one.
it's a tricky scenario.
Yeah. You're like, is it past the 6-month mark yet?
Yeah, what is there an expiration?
For me, I think the expiration is when they're cordial.
Oh, so they have to be the one to come up to you, or
No, well, what I mean is, okay, if you broke up with somebody, right, and it's someone I appreciate dancing with,
right?
I would probably not dance with them for a while until I saw that you guys were at least greeting each other.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's the more friendly approach, especially if it's a close friend of yours.
Yeah, because like that like it gets really spicy. Because then they're like, oh, like what the heck are you doing? Are you trying to move it on her? Like what's, like come on, man.
I mean, we've seen that where they go from this person to their friend.
Yeah. Oh.
That's rough. That's rough.
Sometimes I think they do it on purpose.
Well, we did a tango and dating video a couple months ago, and we explained in that video that it is tough once you're in the tango world to date inside the tango world and then date outside, and you're kind of stuck in this limbo. So I see why tango dancers kind of stick within the tribe, and it is tough, right? Especially when when you have more exes over the experience of time.
So when you see people leaving tango from the breakup, do you always see the guys or the girls leaving?
That's an interesting one. I think from my perspective, I think it's usually the guy that leaves.
Really?
I think so.
Wow, I'd go the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, maybe I should clarify myself. I usually see the girl leaving tango, and it's not because the girls always leave tango. It's usually because the person who hasn't had their support system built yet, and the least experienced person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I had a friend. He's a good friend. He's the least experienced person. His girlfriend was quite accomplished in tango, and he decided like, hey, I'm gonna start trying tango, and he was only 1 year in, and then she just left him for another dude, another tango dancer, and of course he's like, well, there's no reason for me to keep on going, and then from the other side, I've seen people where they start dating like. The new person came in. Oh, she's got so much potential and everything.
Yeah.
And then so she doesn't get the chance to make her own friends, her own tribe. And then
she's stuck with him.
Yeah. And all she knows is his network. So once there's a breakup, it's like she loses everybody because it's only his network.
Yeah. Wow, that sucks.
And then there's my case where I usually get blamed by this a lot, where I always get that. Oh, like you stole all my friends, kind of a thing. Because they say that in jest, but they say it I take it as a joke, but I see what they mean because I'm very extrovert and I tend to date for some reason. I guess I was attracted to introverted people because it's opposites attract, right? But then I realize it's a bad idea.
What is?
The extrovert introvert thing, it's usually a bad idea.
Really? Why? That seems like it'd be complimentary.
It depends on how extreme. Because at least my psychology class, they usually tell me that's usually the first.
So you don't want to be polar ends. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to, because you're on the super far extroverted side, so you need someone more towards the center.
Yeah.
Not on the far end of the spectrum.
Because the whole thing was opposites attract, but birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're too far apart, then you end up resenting each other for the thing that you're naturally doing. So she would go, "Why do you need to go out all the time? What?
But that's a natural thing with any girlfriend, I feel.
Yeah, but it could be the exact opposite. Maybe she's the extrovert. She wants to go out all the time. The guy wants to stay in. And at first you appreciate oh, this is nice. I get to stay in. I don't feel tired all the time and everything. And then you're when you want to go back out again, it's they're just come on, just stay in. Why can't we just stay in? And then you start resenting them because you want to go out. you know, and vice versa, or like let's say if they end up like going out, it's like, yeah, you're just draining me. I just want to stay home, you know. And so there's that, like, and well, at least the psychology classes I've taken, that's what they usually say. Like that's like the first barrier that usually extroverts do well with extroverts, introverts do well with introverts, but when it's too far apart, you know,
It's too much of a gap.
it's too much of a
to
gap.
close.
Yeah. So.
But I hear the one all the time. It's for like, oh, it's another tango event. I don't even count that as a date. Like we don't even go on any dates anymore. All we do is tango, and I don't even. That doesn't even. It's not even in their book.
Yeah, yeah.
I hated that one. It's like, what? We're traveling and we're going to different places and we're doing the thing that we both do. How does that not? I don't get it. That's a thing. We both planned it. We both went there. We both.
No, I get it. Okay, I didn't get it at first, but I get it now.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, of course,
Yeah.
hindsight's always 20/20,
Yeah.
and I'll probably still make the same mistake again. But the thing that was explained to me is that they would have been doing that with or without you,
Right.
and the whole idea of a date is something that's outside of their norm. You know, would they have gone to this, like, if they generally eat out at Michelin star restaurants all the time, you know, like that's nothing special, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just two foodies eating all the time, they might just go, oh, we're always eating out. Why can't we do something different, you know? Why can't we like go hiking or walk in the park or something, you know, that's not in there? Because I think part of a relationship is new experiences. And if you're always, even though you both enjoy it, right, and you're both passionate about it, if you don't have that new experience, because I think part of the relationship is about building new experiences. And sometimes that new experience has to be, or at least this expectation of something that's outside of their, you know, of their wheelhouse.
I see.
At least that's how I understand it. You know, ladies, you can correct me. You know.
To me, I always thought like, wow, it's like we both love this thing. That's awesome that we can share it together. And so I always thought like, oh, well, let's go to Thailand and we'll go there and then also check out the tango there. And there's a tango festival.
Yeah.
And that seems like, wow, that's a trip. It's outside of our country. It's a place we both never been to.
Yeah.
There's your new experience. It's tango too, but it's like.
But I think it's very. I think there's the difference between going to Thailand because you're still dancing social and everything.
Yeah.
But I think something different would be more like, you can still do that, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but let's also go see the waterfalls, or let's go see let's go zip lining through the jungle, something that's outside of their norm. Like I don't know what kind of ladies you're dating, but something that's outside the norm because it's like that new experience. There's a new bond because part of relationships is creating new emotional memories.
That's true.
And if you know how we always say, that you know, the woman experiences tango through just pivots and directions.
Yeah.
So all the figures don't matter. It matters how you do it because like it's the elasticity or the
Density.
or the tempo change.
Yeah.
In a sense, I would say it's the same thing. So, you know, tango in different areas is still tango. It's like another figure.
Yeah.
So what makes it different? You know, the curation has to be something different. And sometimes it's just like the thoughtfulness of doing something outside the norm. You know, I'm not saying festivals you're doing festivals all the time, but sometimes it's just that thoughtfulness of that different experience of what they're getting. Because if they're getting like the whole snuggle feeling in tango.
Yeah.
What about like they're not getting the
Dynamic,
or
adrenaline pumping.
yeah, of like going on a jet ski.
Yeah.
You know, that's very different.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I mean.
I see.
And that's what's been explained to me. But yeah, that's a tough one.
How long after a breakup do you start to go on the market or decide to like look for? Because I feel like guys, like we already talked about earlier, we do take longer, and we don't necessarily have backup options, at least from my perspective. Like, what would you say is the appropriate amount of time to pass?
I don't think it's necessarily a time thing. Yeah. I think it's more of a marketability thing.
What do you mean?
Okay.
Like your self marketability?
Yeah. Like okay. Let's just take let's just take myself. Like out of an 8-year relationship, right?
Yeah.
And some people will say, oh, it's half the time that you're in the relationship, right? So do I want to take 4 years and now I'll be like almost 50, being like, oh, hey, I'm back in the market at 50, you know?
Yeah.
No, it's not about that. It's just more of sometimes I feel that I'm somewhat, I don't know what I have to offer right now, you know? And until I feel like I have made something of myself, like I've fixed myself up to be more marketable, you know, whether that be, oh, did I get a promotion in another job? Did I,
see.
you know, did I, do I, did
So
I
you're more
buy?
situated with yourself.
Yeah, because like if you're situated with yourself, like if I'm, you know, I don't know, if I'm, you know, if I'm a YouTube superstar, right, and I'm more situated with myself, I might bounce back a lot quicker because now I have more options, right?
Sure.
But you know how they say like ladies date who they want and guys date who they can.
Sure.
And generally, I feel that that's what I mean. It's like after our breakup, my ability to date who I can is like 0 sometimes. And it's like, okay, now I have to build myself up. That's why sometimes you know after a breakup, these guys hit the gym, they're like pumping iron and everything.
Yeah,
you know,
that's me.
yeah,
That's me.
But that's what I mean. It's like that's what you, like when you're at a point where you've built yourself up and you're like, okay, now I'm marketable. Otherwise, you're when you talk about dating who you can, it's still 0. Like, well, yeah, you put yourself out there. Like people always go, oh yeah, you got to put yourself out there. I'm like, yeah, but you're still 0.
Honestly, I think one of the most motivating factors is a breakup in terms of getting you to go through those plans you've been put into laying, getting through to motivate you to do better, to put forth your best successful self.
Yeah.
I think the breakups are a period, even though it sucks, even though it hurts, even though it's something that's not fun to deal with, I feel like that leads you to a point in time in your life where you really make something happen.
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's a sink or swim moment, you know, like because it could be
You
the
fall
point,
into the depression plunge.
and then maybe you just end up like getting washed down the churn. You know, that's just sometimes that happens. But I think breakups are a point of like somewhat of an existential crisis, you know.
Trying to find out who really am I now?
Yeah.
Where do I go from here? What
Yeah.
do I do? What do I do to get better? What do I need to work on?
Yeah, this is the gun to your head moment. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit there and let the trigger go off, or are you gonna do something about it? You know,
Yeah.
and I think there's a sense of urgency where it's like, oh, okay, and then you have to go out there and mix because I think that's the thing is, I know everyone always says like, oh, you got a good personality, you got you know.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
That does nothing.
I don't
That
think
makes you feel nothing
no,
better.
I think what makes you marketable is competency. So whether, and how do you show competency? How do you show that, hey, I'm a secure person. Hey, I'm a good bet. I mean, that might be looking fit because now it's like, oh, he's got the discipline to do stuff, right?
I think that's the first thing
Yeah.
all guys should actually do post breakup.
Yeah, like, oh, he dresses nice. Like, okay, well, this person's like probably clean and organized or whatever. Might have a good job. Oh, like that's what I mean. There needs to be some form of marketability, and it's really hard because after a breakup, it's like you've gone through a free fall, and you might be falling for a while until you figure out like, okay, I need to pick
I can
myself.
crawl out of this pit.
Yeah, because
like Batman and Dark Knight Rises.
yeah, because sometimes it's like you go in this free fall, you're like, oh, I'm so depressed, what's wrong with me? And you don't realize it's like, well, sometimes through depression, you find that, can of ice cream, you keep on going, that's just the way it is.
I think if you stay busy, that's one thing that helps a lot. Keep your mind off it. Go to the gym. Like work on your dance in this case in tango. Watch videos. Learn a new hobby. Maybe take on a new job. Get more money. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. But that's for me. I don't think it's about time. I think it's about because some people bounce back quickly because they're mentally set up to become marketable again.
I'm always impressed by those guys that are just able to be like, that was done on Sunday and now it's Wednesday. I'm on to girl number one now.
Yeah, but all
That's crazy. Like I've never been that. Maybe I could. I don't know. I'm so impressed by that.
yeah, but these guys are probably the guys who like never let themselves like get like the dad bod because they're in a relationship. They never let themselves become so comfortable that they let themselves go. You know, I mean, we have a mutual friend. I've never seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him chubby.
Well, genetics play a huge role in that.
But that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Like my whole point is that he's always stayed trim. He's always stayed fit, and he bounces back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, and he might be traveling around the world to bounce back, but still, it's like he's set up to be marketable already. Where like someone like myself, I'm like, oh, okay, it's gonna be more than 6 months to get this 80 pounds off, and then and then I have to think about what to do after that. So I could blame genetics or whatever, but what it comes back down to is what are you gonna do, and how committed are you to be marketable again?
Yeah. Well, let us know if you have a lot of Tango X's and what have been your experiences dealing with that or addressing those issues that come with, breakups and past relationships in Tango, because they are very common, as we know. And it'll be interesting to find out your side of the story. So let us know in the comments about your own Tango X's. But other than that, thank y'all so much again for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. All right, and we are back on another edition of Tango News, and we have some breaking news. A recent poll indicating that Los Angeles, the most snobbiest tango place on earth.
Really? Not Buenos Aires?
Not Buenos Aires. According to this recent poll, Los Angeles, we are the king of the snobs.
We're number one!
We're number one in something. After a horrible downswing in LA has been through, we're finally number one in something. Something to be proud of, I guess. Kind of, not really. I mean, this is not surprising that we get this. It's kind of almost like a stereotype of Los Angeles, that we are known to be snobby, that we're known to be cliquish. It's always hard because we are both part of the community, so it's kind of hard to see yourself as something. You'd have to have someone from the outside, and I guess according to this poll, that's what the outside people are saying. We are the most snobbiest.
And it's actually funny because I've had conversations with a good friend of mine who we'll talk about LA, but not necessarily LA Tango. But we'll say something. But I remember he'll say something along the lines of, like trying to find a real person in a plastic city.
Well, we are very pretentious. I mean, there's no ignoring that. I mean, Hollywood and all these things. There's the need to try to make yourself in LA, and so there is a kind of air of pretentiousness a lot.
But is that well deserved? Like, the reputation of snobbiness. Is it that LA Tango is really snobby, or is it more of, let's say, we're misunderstood?
Well, I mean, to any snobby person, I think they're always going to say that they're misunderstood, right?
Okay.
To our snobbiness is our closeness with each other.
Yeah, because the other things that I kind of see is that everyone has this idea of welcoming means more giving, more generous. Everyone dances, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And Tango in itself is already difficult with the Tanda system.
Right.
Because if I were to go out and dance Lindy, I could probably dance with 80 people in a night. Where if I dance Tango, maybe I might be lucky if I get through 7 or 12. 7 to 12 is kind of like my max.
I guess it depends, right? Because maybe this snobbiness comes from, if you're a new dancer and you come here to LA for the very first time, do you think we are more opening to that new person from wherever place? Like, do we go, oh, who's the new person? Well, I got to go dance with that person.
Actually, I kind of do.
Yeah, I kind of do too. So that's the interesting thing. You mentioned Buenos Aires being not like on the list, because I actually think that there, in that term, they are way more snobby compared to us, right? Where you hear this a lot. You go to Buenos Aires, you got to spend at least a month for people to get to know you. That's common story. Before you get to dance with the locals, they got to check you out. You got to keep going, and after like 3 weeks or so, you break in. And
I'll say I broke in on day 2.
really,
Dude, I got parachuting skills, man.
you just dropped right in.
Dude, I could go behind enemy lines,
Just, like,
no problem.
infiltrated from the
You know, I'm like recon specialist. Seriously.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are recon specialists.
Maybe it's just my teddy bear personality. You know, I think that people just saw me and like, I got good vibes. You know, so who knows? But in terms of snobbiness, I think people have this expectation, and I think generally when you invest so much into tango, you kind of expect some kind of payout. You know, and I think that's one of the problems is that sometimes, you're Mr. Delayed Gratification, the payout comes a lot later. And, when I look at things like salsa, swing, bachata, the payout comes really early. I think, especially for guys, it's almost like, oh, you're a guy, you dance, let's go.
Yeah, anybody, the teacher.
Seriously, like I went to a salsa event and I danced a lot, and I don't know jack. And it was like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, just keep on moving, and just remember, like, all the turns are on 5. I'm like, okay, all the turns are on 5, So, and it was almost like, don't get me wrong, I think salsa is an amazing dance, but it's almost like, did I have like a strong connection? Probably not, because I'm very new.
Right.
But also at the same time, it's almost like everyone who danced well I felt like I was not really needed, because they just
I'm gonna do
danced.
my own thing. You stand there. I'm gonna move around.
Yeah,
And spin myself.
It's almost like, yeah, just remember, lift your arm at 5 and everything's fine. Like, I'll take care of the rest. Maybe that's how, maybe in tango that's how ladies feel, like, because sometimes I hear that especially in tango, I hear that a lot. It's like, as long as there's a good lead, I can dance anything and everything. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what I was experiencing in salsa, where it was almost like I didn't know what I was doing, but the ladies were so good that I felt like, oh, well, I can do anything and everything as long as I lift my arm on 5,
That's actually a very interesting thought, right? The followers can make up for any leader's mistake, whereas in tango, I feel like the burden's on the leader to be the one to make up for the mistake.
Well,
you need the leader to be able to do all the things. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I think with salsa, it's like, it's one of those things where you have to be a good lead, and you can be a good follower, but like both people can make up for each other. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily so dependent on the lead. I think, because I've heard that a lot, especially from my friends who dance salsa. Well, they'll just say, yeah, these people don't lead very well, or this is just a place where people have fun. And in a sense, I think when they want, like some of my friends who are instructors, they have to go elsewhere. They have to go to this, like the congresses and everything, to like these big, weekend events to have fun, where the local events are just kind of like, I'm here to teach, not really, there's not really good dancers here. Where I think with tango, we try to make the local events to be of a high caliber, and
that's true.
And we don't. There are events that are beginner friendly, but it's not like we rave about them. And I think it's also events, they kind of rave about the beginner events.
That's true in other dances as well. We don't rave about beginner dances at all in tango, especially here in LA. And we have a lot of events, and LA is so spread out. So it kind of creates its own little pockets of places anyways. Mm-hmm. Because of the distance, no one wants to drive. No one wants to drive through traffic. No one wants to go over the hill. And so you get these milongas that are spread out far away and creates their own cliques and groups of people. And maybe that, in a sense, is the level of snobbiness that comes from that.
No, I definitely think it's when you start talking about a higher caliber of dance, you do get a sense of snobbiness. Because even in, let's say, a dance like Lindy, where people are more accepting, or supposedly more accepting, I've heard people say things like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to like Lindy Groove because that's very beginner. I want to go to Joe's or something like that,
Right.
where there's a higher level dancer."
Yes.
And it's almost like if you go to Joe's, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is,
We don't have that here in LA. We have no Malonga of such sort right now.
yeah,
Like if you go to this Malonga, you better know what you're doing.
well, I think the exact opposite. I think most Malongas, there's this expectation that you should know what you're doing, and we don't have this beginner-friendly, like everyone hold hands and sing kumbaya kind of a thing.
Ah, that's interesting.
We do have them, but it's not a popular place. It's not.
It's not recommended.
Yeah, it's not. People just kind of go there. It's just kind of like people just say, "Oh, that's where all the bad dancers go," or like that's where you go as a beginner, and then like you want to get out of there as fast as possible. And it's. I don't want to say it's true, but to each their own. But when let's say take a place like Lindy for a dance like Lindy, for example. I definitely hear people say, "Oh, Lindy Groove's great. Lindy Groove's fun. There's a lot of things there. Yeah, it's beginner, but it's okay." Like they don't look down on beginner dances. They don't look down on beginner events. Where I think that because and it's very large too. It's huge. I think like it easily gets 400 people a night. But I think with Tango, we don't have this giant machine to have this big beginner event to really and
So there's our call to action. I feel like part of Left Foot, Right Foot, we should both go to one beginner event a month.
what beginner event was that be?
I don't know. We're just gonna have to figure out what beginner, what events has a lot of beginners, and we can attend, and we'll say we're trying to do our part. We attended this. We're trying to reduce the snobbiness in LA.
Okay. But so here's the other thing. So we attend, right?
Yeah.
But let's say we attend, and then all our friends show up too, who are like high-level dancers, and then we end up being that little click in the
Pocket,
corner.
the clicky.
Yeah. So I mean, do we end up changing the environment, and then that place ends up not being beginner friendly? No, I've seen it happen before. Where a group of people come in, and then it's almost like they change.
Showtime.
Yeah, they change everything, and then it's like, look at me because I'm like the show dancer,
Yeah.
and now everyone's intimidated to get on the floor. I think
So we had to do it on a secret operation. Tango Black Ops.
we're dropping in.
We're gonna drop it
Drop it in
somewhere
hot.
randomly.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. Isn't that what a practica is?
Yes, but people in LA don't practice or go to practicas.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying though is the idea of the beginner event. Isn't that just a casual the practica like as the casual Malonga?
Yeah, it should be.
So shouldn't that be Guapa? That's like the premier casual event.
Yeah, it doesn't attract a lot of beginners, I would say.
Well, why doesn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a big space, has a lot of room, good hosts that are very friendly.
Yeah.
Good music, typically.
Okay. But and it's 3 song tandas, so more mixing. Or is it because it's 2.5 hours as it's like chop, chop, chop?
Well, so what are you saying? We should recommend that as a beginner event?
I don't know. I mean, I think Guapa's really friendly.
I do too, yeah.
But
I don't look at it as like you should go there as a beginner.
well, where
Necessarily.
where would you recommend as a beginner? Like your friend comes in, like my friend Upender. Where would I recommend that he go?
Wednesdays at Lata, I think is a good choice.
Okay.
Because they have their class and cohorts of students that are racing and new, and then, so they generally attract more beginners and more first-year dancers.
All right.
Not saying I wouldn't recommend something like Guapa because it is during the week and it is more casual, but I would probably recommend that one first before Guapa.
Okay.
Because Guapa does have a little bit more advanced dancers and not as many beginners.
Yeah, but they have big floor space.
That's true.
And
They're both kind of. I mean, we both attend them almost every week. So.
Yeah. All right. What about Monarch or like the new LAX?
I've never been there yet.
Well,
so,
we went there for the marathon,
yeah.
so it's a space.
What about the Victorian?
They don't really have. They have classes. They don't really have tango events yet because it's pretty much bachata, or once a month they do kizumba. So, can you do tango to kizumba? Yes, you can. But that's very much in the same vein of like fusion nuevo. Is it that? Actually, I would say to me the most beginner friendly place is Michael's, the modern music Malanga.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not traditional. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still tango, and they're very open, and you get to mess up and do whatever and
Fair
improvise and
Yeah.
so
Good
and
space.
yeah, and they play music that you might be more familiar with in terms of like alternative music. And yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it because I started off with Nuevo, and I was totally enamored by Nuevo and Chicho and all those people. So maybe that's the
The one we had to drop in, Black Ops style.
or maybe that's the one that we should start recommending people too.
Yeah.
Like maybe the idea of the snobbiness of tango comes from this adherence to excellence, and we get that we get a lot of that in traditional tango.
Yeah.
But maybe people need to see the other side of tango, like the 50/50s and the more modern nuevo. There's also one on Thursday. What was it? I can't remember the name of it right now. But there's another nuevo place on Thursday. There's also
Oxygen, yeah.
Yeah, Oxygen. Oxygen's more on the alternative scene. They're more forgiving.
Yeah.
So and
These ones are just so far from me, but if you want to make an effort to do it, I'm down.
Yeah. But I hear you. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, what I'm saying is the idea of the snobbiness of LA. I think the further you get away from traditional, the more accepting people are and the more welcoming people are. So
That's fair.
if you're looking for welcoming, definitely on the Nuevo side.
Well, there you have it. We're trying to make LA not on this #1 list of snobbiness. But yes, thank y'all for tuning in to Tango News, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. Please click the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up to date with our latest videos. We greatly appreciate it.
Also, if you can, click the like button. It really helps us with the algorithm. Where our goal is really to make tango, social tango in the community more available to the mass public. And that's pretty much our goal with the whole channel. So if you could click that like button, it really goes a long way. Thank y'all so much.